Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. And today we're going to return to Dr. Joseph Murphy and another wonderful lecture. This one, titled, Why Did This Happen to Me?, is a wonderful discussion of a universal question that we all end up asking once in our lives. Some crazy thing happens. Some terrible thing happens. I've lost friends. Caught girlfriends cheating on me, had girlfriends leave me, lost houses, lost businesses, all kinds of things that have happened to me. And you always ask that question at some point. Why did this happen to me? And it's a question that you will end up asking if you haven't ever asked it. And so, let's look at these events, these crazy things that happen, with the filter of Dr. Joseph Murphy's wonderful words. Dr. Joseph Murphy, as I have said before, was a wonderful New Thought teacher that taught on the power of the mind and the power of the subconscious mind. He had several incredible affirmations, and there will be a short prayer at the end of this. I found this in two places, at a lecture that he gave and also in his book, Maximize Your Potential to Overcome Fear and Worry Through Your Subconscious Mind. Dr. Murphy begins by saying, when life does not go as planned, when misfortune strikes, when one is unhappy with the cards one is dealt, we often hear the complaint, why did this happen to me? There is no easy answer to this universal question. To accept the trials and tribulations all humankind faces, it is necessary to think God's thoughts, to think in a new way, to think of eternal verities, to think of eternal principles of life in the same manner that mathematicians would think from the principle of mathematics. Navigators would think from the principle of navigation. Chemists would think from the principle of chemistry. Electricians would think from the principle of electricity. They know it moves from a higher to a lower potential. They learn the laws of conductivity and insulation for wiring your house. Likewise, your mind is a principle. Therefore, you think from the God center within. You think on whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are honest and of good report. Think on these things. You are thinking only when you are thinking from the standpoint of the God center within. There is a principle of harmony, not of discord. There is a principle of beauty, not ugliness. There is a principle of joy, none of sadness. There is a principle of love, not of hate. There is a principle of wholeness, perfection. There is no principle of sickness. If there were no one in the entire world could ever be healed, realize, therefore, that when your thoughts are completely free from fear and worry, you are thinking from the standpoint of the divine center within you, and God speaks thinks and acts through you. Therefore, you speak in words of wisdom, truth, and beauty. Words of harmony, health, and peace. You think, therefore, from the God center within. Many people do not think. Millions do not think. They think that they think, but they are mistaken. Because true thinking, we are talking about constructive thinking, is completely free from fear. All fear is based upon externals or causative. Externals are an effect, not a cause. Therefore, you must remember that if we do not think for ourselves, someone else will do our thinking for us. If you do not choose your own mood, who's going to choose it for you? Newspapers? Headlines? The mass mind. We are all subjective. We are all in the mass mind. We're all in telepathic communication with each other. The people in this world are all extensions of ourselves. Therefore, if you do not think constructively, harmoniously, and peacefully, the world mind, or the mass mind, or the race mind will do your thinking for you. And that mass mind believes in tragedy, misfortune, sickness, disease, accidents, and they indulge in hate, murder, and all sorts of things. Is that the kind of a mind you want thinking through you and in you? That's what happens to you if you don't do your own thinking. Then these negative vibrations or thoughts of the mass mind move in upon you, reach a point of saturation, precipitate as accident, misfortune, sickness, disease. We have explosions in minds today. We have airplane crashes and tragedies occurring daily. It isn't that people are evil or they are bad because their submarine goes down in the ocean, or because there is a flood in some city, or because children are hurt in accidents and explosions take place in various factories and things of that nature. Many people lose their lives. We say it's necessary to keep prayed up. You keep prayed up when you fill your mind, for example, of the truth of God, which crowd out of your mind everything unlike God. Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old, but this one thing I do, forgetting the things that are behind, reaching forth unto those things that are before. I press toward the mark for the prize. The Bible says, whatsoever a man soweth, so shall he reap. This means that if we plant thoughts of peace, harmony, health, beauty, prosperity, we shall reap accordingly. And that if we sow thoughts of sickness, lack, strife, and contention, we shall reap these things. We must remember that our subconscious mind is like the soil. It will grow whatever type of seed we plant in the garden of our mind. We sow thoughts, biblically speaking, when we believe them wholeheartedly. For whatever your conscious mind really believes, your subconscious will bring to pass, whether true or false. Unless you do your own thinking, you'll be controlled by the mass mind. And the mass mind believes in misfortune, sickness, calamities, and tragedies of all kinds. Therefore, you must do your own thinking. True thinking is completely free from fear, worry, and anxiety, because you are thinking from the God center within. When your thoughts are God's thoughts, God's power is with your thoughts of good. Therefore, you don't say to another, "What boiling thoughts were you thinking?" Maybe they didn't have any boiling thoughts at all. Maybe they didn't do any praying of their own, and they said, "I'll just take what comes." Therefore, the world mind believes in sickness and disease of all kinds. And if you do not cleanse your own mind, the world mind will not cleanse it for you. What happens to a home when you go away for 3 or 4 months? Rats, mice, and pestiferous insects come in. The paint falls off the walls, and everything goes wrong in the house because there is no habitation, no living there. You have to shampoo your mind like you shampoo your body or cleanse your body. You have to shampoo it regularly, clearly, and distinctly. Whatever we really believe with our conscious mind, our subconscious brings to pass. A chaplain in a hospital in Massachusetts told me that a common experience she had were patients who lamented, "Why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why is God angry with me? Why is God punishing me? I go to church regularly. I'm a charitable person. I am kind-hearted. I must have done something wrong that I don't know about. That's why I am so ill." The law of life is the law of belief. What do you believe? To believe is to accept something as true, to live in the state of being it, to be alive to something. We should believe in the goodness of God. We should live in the joyous expectancy of the best. We should believe in the guidance of God, the harmony of God, the healing power of God to make us whole, pure, relaxed, and perfect. The chaplain reported that in many cases, she prayed with patients and helped them change their beliefs. I helped them realize that the body was spiritual, that when they changed their minds, they changed their bodies. They began to cease giving power to the sickness in their thoughts. She taught them to pray as follows: the infinite healing presence is flowing through me as harmony, health, peace, wholeness, and perfection. God's healing love indwells every cell of my being. I am made whole, pure, relaxed, and perfect. She taught them to repeat this prayer frequently, knowing what they were doing and why they were doing it. Thus, the conscious mind was writing these truths down in their subconscious. Whatever you impress or inscribe in your subconscious will come to pass as form, function, experience, and events. As a result of this, many patients made miraculous recoveries. The law of life is the law of belief. If you fear sickness, you attract it. The law of the Lord is perfect. You can't think one thing and produce another. The law of life is the law of belief. Trouble of any kind is nature's alarm system that we are thinking wrongly in that direction. Nothing but a change of thought can set us free. There is a law of cause and effect operating at all times. Nothing happens to man without his mental consent and participation. You do not have to think of an accident to have it befall you. Haven't you seen a man driving a car, careening in and out drunk? You said, "There goes an accident." Why? There's a mind behind it. There's a mood. There's an emotion behind the wheel. There's always a mind behind it. Is that mind disturbed? Is that mind emotionally disturbed? If you are emotionally disturbed, it affects your vision. You don't see so well. OSHA, the U.S. federal government agency responsible for occupational safety, investigates the causes of industrial injuries. They are particularly concerned about companies where frequent injuries occur. In addition to their engineering staff, which examines the facilities for physical defects that may cause the accidents, safety experts with training in psychology interview the workers. Not just the injured person, but all the workers in the plant. They often learn that accidents are caused when employees are emotionally upset. In companies where workers have dogmatic and domineering bosses, resentment of the boss leads to negative thoughts in the workers' minds, which results in carelessness and accidents. Misfortune, accidents, and tragedies of various kinds are signs of mental and emotional disorders that have broken out into manifestation. We must train our minds to think in a new way, to turn back to God and align our thoughts and mental imagery with the infinite life, love, truth, and beauty of God. Then we become channels for the divine. Still your mind several times a day and affirm slowly, quietly, and lovingly: God flows through me as harmony, health, peace, joy, wholeness, and perfection. God walks and talks in me. God's spell is always around me. Wherever I go, God's wisdom governs me in all my ways. Divine right action prevails. All my ways are ways of pleasantness, and all my paths are peace. God's love surrounds me, enfolds me, and enwraps me. God walks and talks in me. I'm surrounded by the sacred circle of God's eternal love, and the whole armor of God surrounds me. As you dwell on these eternal verities, you will establish patterns of divine order in your subconscious mind. And whatever you impress in the subconscious mind is expressed on the screen of space. Therefore, you will find yourself watched over at all times by an overshadowing presence, your Heavenly Father, who responds to you when you call upon Him. The Bible says, "Call upon me, I will answer you. I'll be with you in trouble. I'll set you on high because you hath known my name." Now, all of us should learn how the subjective self in us works. One of the great corollaries of the great law of suggestion is this: whatever you suggest to another, you're also suggesting to yourself. When you are giving a suggestion to another, you are giving it to yourself, because you are the only thinker in your universe, and you respond to the way you think. Whatever you are wishing for the other person, you are wishing for yourself. You always under the law of your own thought. This is the basis of the golden rule, which also tells you to treat your enemies well, to pray for them that spitefully use you. In other words, never dwell on ill will for anyone or against any person on the face of the earth. You do so at your own peril, because whatever you are thinking about the other, you are creating in your own mind, your body, your circumstances, your pocketbook also. That's a simple truth. Radiate love, peace, and goodwill to everybody. Don't judge. With what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. Your judgment of the other is your judgment of yourself. That's the conclusion. That's your verdict in your own mind. Many people suffer from sickness, disease, accidents, and misfortune because they do not think constructively. They are letting mass mind or race mind or the law of averages govern them. They are not bad people, but they refuse to think for themselves. They do not keep prayed up. They do not neutralize the mass mind. If you know very well, if you read the newspapers in the morning and listen to the radio or TV at night, what do you hear about? Murder, rape, hate, jealousy, and all sorts of misfortune seem to happen to people. They tell you about all the bad things that have happened. They don't tell you about any of the good things. Well, likewise, if you do not keep prayed up, if you do not think for yourself, the mass mind does your thinking for you. Therefore, you must ask yourself, am I thinking constructively, harmoniously, peacefully? Of course you answer that question yourself. You are what you think all day long. For as we think in our heart, in our subconscious mind, so we are. So do we become, and so do we express. That's the whole law. Whatever you sow in your mind, so shall you reap. All of us are in the mass mind, the race mind, the great psychic sea. The mass mind believes in sickness, accidents, death, misfortune, and tragedies of all kinds. If we do not do our own thinking, the mass mind, the race mind, will do our thinking for us. Gradually, the thoughts of the mass mind impinging on our consciousness may reach a point of saturation and precipitate as accident, sudden illness, calamity, heart attack, so-called tragedies that happen in the air, the sea. The majority of people do not think. They think that they think. You are thinking when you differentiate between that which is false and that which is real. To think is to choose. How many people are thinking? You have the capacity to say yes and no. Let your conversation be yea and no. No. You say yes to the truth of being, and you reject everything unlike God or the truth. If the mental instrument could not choose, you would not be an individual. You have the ability to accept and reject. You can think on whatsoever things are true, lovely, noble, and godlike all day long. There is nothing in the entire world to stop you from thinking constructively, harmoniously, and peacefully. You are thinking when you know that there is an infinite intelligence which responds to your thoughts, and that no matter what the problem is, as you think about a divine solution and the happy ending, you will find the subjective wisdom within you responding to you and revealing to you the perfect plan and show you the way to go. Everywhere you move today, suggestions of people in your office, in your home, radio, television, and all that, or the neighbors, their thoughts and their moods are playing upon the subtle receptivity of your mind. Whether you know it or not, these impressions are going down into your mind and muddling it and befouling it. If a building were left unattended for any length of time, you know what would happen to it. Likewise, every morning and every night, sit down, read Psalms, the 91st Psalm, the 27th, 23rd, 46th, and the 1st Psalm are particularly helpful. These are marvelous truths. Psalms are songs of God. You are here to cleanse your mind, to govern it, to watch over it, just the same as you cleanse your body. You give a piece of soap to a person who is dirty, and that person takes a bath. That's a suggestion of cleanliness to him or her. Well, cleanliness is next to godliness. Therefore, we should give attention to things that are lovely and noble. We should give attention to eternal verities, the principles of life. We should discipline our thoughts. Inattention, negligence, apathy, listlessness pay dividends. But they are negative dividends, aren't they? You have to give attention to what is true, what is noble, and what is of God. Over the years, I've had many people with medical problems come to me for advice. Some have truly serious problems, others are trivial. In any case, I strongly recommend their seeking professional medical help. I am not a doctor, nor am I a healer in the sense that the prophet Elisha, Jesus, and others have been. But often, I find that the true problem is not medical, but spiritual. One of the strangest cases brought to my attention was that of a woman who had suffered a series of illnesses over a period of time. She told me, "God has it in for me. I'm a sinner. This is why I'm being punished." She also told me she went to a man who hypnotized her, read her past. He attributed her illnesses to a life she had previously lived, in which she had been an evil person who had harmed many people. As she had not been punished in that life, she is now suffering for the sins she had committed then. Of course, that was nonsense. It only made things worse. I explained to her an age-old truth. There is but one power, called God, the living Spirit Almighty, not 2 or 3 or 1,000. It is the creative intelligence in all of us that created us. This power becomes to us what we believe it to be. To the forward, I am forward. To the pure, I am pure. If you think and believe there is a God of love, then the God of love will respond to you and become a loving being to you. If you think that God is punishing you, that you must suffer, According to your thought and belief, it is done unto you. But in reality, you are punishing yourself. As the Bible says, it is done unto him as he believes. For as a man thinketh in his heart or subconscious mind, so is he. So does he become, so does he express. This woman was seeking justification and alibis for her suffering. She was looking outside herself instead of realizing, because nothing happens to the body except there is a pattern in the subconscious mind. I asked her to look inside herself and determine if there was something in her past about which she felt a deep sense of guilt. She confessed that she had a love affair with a married man a few years ago, and that she felt guilty and should be punished. With guilt comes fear and apprehension, and with fear comes punishment. She felt that she would be punished, and she was punishing herself. Guilt is the curse of curses. It's one of the most destructive of all emotions. And being a destructive, negative emotion, it cannot have a constructive outlet. These emotions get snarled up in the subconscious mind and come forth as illness and disease. This unresolved remorse was the psychic wound behind her illnesses. I helped her realize that God was not punishing her, but she was punishing herself by her own thoughts. My explanation was the cure. She forgave herself, and she sat down for 20 minutes several times a day and said, God's healing love saturates my soul, and I forgive myself for harboring these negative, destructive thoughts. Her illness abated, and she was soon back to a full, healthy, productive life. There is no worse suffering than a guilty conscience, and certainly none more destructive. This woman had been punishing herself for several years by her destructive thinking. When she ceased to condemn herself and began to claim that the infinite healing presence was saturating her whole being, that God dwells in every cell of her body, her illnesses disappeared. When you stand praying, forgive yourself first. You can't give what you don't have. As she decided to forgive herself, God's healing love healed her. In ancient times, they attributed thoughts and feelings to the heart. Today, we know it is your subconscious mind. Whatever idea is emotionalized and felt as true comes to pass once it reaches the subconscious mind. Your subconscious assumptions, beliefs, convictions dictate and control all your conscious actions. Your subconscious beliefs impel, propel, and compel. Whatever you sow, you reap. Your thoughts and feelings create your destiny. You are what you think all day long. If you fail to think constructively, wisely, and judiciously, then someone else or the mass mind will do your thinking for you, and perhaps make a complete mess of your life. If you believe that God is infinite goodness, boundless love, absolute harmony, boundless wisdom, the God presence will respond accordingly to you by the law of reciprocal relationship. And you will find yourself blessed in countless ways. The forces of life depend on how you use them. Atomic energy is not evil. It is good or bad, depending on the way you use it. You can use atomic energy in medicine. You can drive a ship across the ocean with it. You can use electricity to kill another or to vacuum the floor. You can use water to quench a child's thirst or drown it. You can use nitric acid to paint a beautiful Madonna on the window pane. Or you can blind a person with it. The wind, which blows the ship on the rocks, can also carry it to safety. The uses to which all things or objects in the world are put are determined by the thoughts and motivations of humankind. Good and evil are in our minds. Good and evil are the movements of my own mind relative to the one being, forever whole, pure, and immaculate in itself, it is the human mind that determines the use of the forces and objects in the world. The creative force is in our minds. There is no power in the manifest universe except we give power to externals. Externals are an effect. They are not a cause. The scientific thinker does not make phenomenalistic world a cause. It's an effect. The cause is your thought and feeling. No matter how long you might have used your mind in a negative and destructive manner, the minute you begin to use it the right way, the right results follow. Remember, not the former things, nor consider the things of old. This one thing I do, forgetting the things that are behind and reaching forth to the things that are before, I press towards the mark for the prize. The prize, of course, is health, happiness, peace of mind, joy, and all the good things of life. Think good, good follows. Think evil, evil follows. The minute you enthrone in your mind godlike ideas and eternal verities, they generate their own fragrance. When your heart becomes a chalice for God's love, and the brain and the heart unite in accord and concord based on eternal verities, then all your ways will be pleasantness, and all your paths will be paths of peace. Nothing happens by chance. Everything is pushed from behind. It's a universe of law and order. Therefore, everything happens according to the law of cause and effect. There is a cause behind everything. We do not see the causes operating in a given instance, so we attribute it to chance, coincidence, or accident, or things of that nature. Charles R. was afraid that he was losing his vision. He went to an ophthalmologist and learned that he did not have cataracts or glaucoma or any of the usual symptoms leading to blindness. Further tests found no medical evidence of incipient blindness. Yet, in fact, his vision was slowly but surely dimming. The medical profession today understands that psychic factors play a definite role in all disease. Disease is the lack of peace, lack of equilibrium, lack of serenity. It's impossible to have a healthy mind and a sick body. A healthy mind is a healthy body. Nothing happens in the body except the equivalent is in the mind. There's no doubt that visual problems can be brought on by workings of the mind. Emotional reaction can cause the involuntary muscles to twist the eyeball out of shape. Treating the mental and emotional factors of the individual rather than just concentrating on the eyes may reveal the basic emotional factor. The reason why the subconscious mind is selecting an ailment that tends to shut out everything except the immediate surroundings. In my conversations with Charles, he constantly complained about his mother-in-law, who was living in his home. He vehemently stated, "I can't stand the sight of that woman." He was full of suppressed rage. His emotional system, which could not stand the strain any longer, selected the eyes as a scapegoat. The explanation was the cure in this case. He was surprised to learn that negative emotions, if persisted in, snarl up in the subconscious mind, and being negative must have a negative outlet. The commands to his subconscious mind were negative. "I hate the sight of her. I don't want to see her anymore." I explained to him, "Your subconscious mind takes you literally." His statements were accepted by his subconscious mind, and the subconscious looked upon that as a request and proceeded to bring on loss of vision. He and his wife agreed that it would be best if his mother-in-law lived elsewhere. They arranged for her to move to a senior citizen facility not too far away. However, moving her to another residence alone would not solve the problem entirely. Charles had to erase his hatred of his mother-in-law from his mind. At my suggestion, he prayed for her, releasing her to God and wishing for her all the blessings of heaven. He did it in a very simple way. He said, "I surrender my mother-in-law," mentioning her name, to God completely. I radiate love, peace, and goodwill to her. I wish for her all the blessings of heaven. I mean this. I'm sincere. I decree it. It shall all come to pass, and the light of God shall shine upon her ways. And he continued to do that. I explained to him that he would know when he had completely accepted her, because he could meet her in his mind and there would be no sting there. He would no longer sizzle. His vision began to improve almost immediately, and soon his eyesight was restored to normal. The ophthalmologist looked at his eyes and said, "You solved your problem." And he had solved his problem. He could meet her in his mind, and there was no sting there. He no longer sizzled. In the beginning of this, we brought out that you should concentrate your thoughts on whatsoever things are true, lovely, noble, and godlike. Think on these things, because you are what you think all day long, and our life is what our thoughts have made it. You don't want the irrational mass mind thinking in you, do you? No, you don't. If you do not think for yourself, you must ask yourself, who is manipulating your mind now? Ask yourself, do I own my own mind? Do I come to my own decisions? Am I thinking clearly according to godlike patterns? You cannot dodge or circumvent the law of mind. It is done unto you as you believe. Years ago, the English sailors blamed scurvy on the salt meat they had, hardtack and so on. Then someone told them to eat some limes, some lemons full of vitamin C, and of course they were healed. But you see, again, that was ignorance, carelessness, indifference, stupidity. It was a void in the mind, because all the islands and all the countries they visited in their long voyages were full of oranges, apples, limes, lemons, and all kinds of citrus fruits. Where was the lack? The lack was in the mind, a void in the mind, ignorance. Ignorance is no excuse for the law. It was carelessness, indifference, and apathy. People are constantly attributing their ailments to the atmosphere, to the weather, to malpractice, evil entities and germs, viruses, and diets. Most of us have no doubts that an invisible virus can make us ill. But we don't always believe in the invisible presence and power called God, which created us and created the whole world. We pollute the air with strange notions and false doctrines. If we believe that by nearing an electric fan, we can catch cold or get a stiff neck, that belief, when accepted, becomes our master and ruler and causes us to experience a cold. Millions of people sit under fans all over the world. They don't get a stiff neck. They don't get a cold. Millions of people go out in the night air. They don't get a chill or pneumonia ever. Millions of people get their feet wet. But maybe your mother said, when you get your feet wet and you don't dry them and put on new socks, you'll get your death of cold or pneumonia or something. But the water never said, I'll give you pneumonia, a chill, a fever, or anything. According to your belief, it is done unto you. According to your faith, it is done unto you. Your faith should be in the goodness of God, in the land of the living, and the guidance of God, and the healing power of God, the abundance of God, and in the fact that an infinite intelligence responds to you when you call upon it. The fan is harmless. It's mechanical. It's innocuous. Your faith can be used two ways. You can have faith in an invisible virus to give you the flu, or you can have faith in the invisible spirit within you to flow through you as harmony, health, peace, guidance, and right action. as a God or spirit in you cannot be sick, and the spirit in you is God. What is true of God is true of you, because the word individual means the indivisible one. That's the living Spirit Almighty within you. The Bible says, I said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Believe that you are a child of the living God. You are. Believe that the living Spirit within you is the God presence. And that can't be sick. And because that can't be sick, that's the reality of you. Emerson said, we humans think our fate is alien because the cause is hidden, but the soul, the subconscious mind, contains the event that shall befall it. For the event is only the actualization of its thoughts. What we pray to ourselves for is always granted. The devil in the Bible means ignorance or misunderstanding. It means a false concept of God, life, and the universe. The devil means ignorance or misunderstanding, misapplication of law. Actually, it means God upside down, a twisted, morbid, diabolical concept of the God of love. There's no being with hooves, horn, and a tail. This comes out of a distorted, twisted imagination, not willing to admit that the evil is within ourselves. We postulate it outside ourselves. Surely God is omnipresent. Omnipresent means it must be present in you. Otherwise, the word omnipresent has no meaning. A man told me, for example, that he was wounded in the jungle, and he was praying that someone would come and rescue him. And he said there was a man who was hunting in the jungle and had a sudden feeling that he should change his course. He did so and came and administered to my wound and helped me back to a home. The man was wounded, was praying for help, and this man who was out hunting changed his course. He had an intuitive feeling, perception. It was the infinite intelligence guiding the hunter to become his rescuer. But it was the one being operating in both. It is done unto you as you believe, and a belief is a thought in the mind. No external power or evil entity is trying to lure or harm you. People are constantly attributing their ailments to the atmosphere, the weather, and some attribute their trouble to the voodoo. They say it's black magic, or someone is practicing voodoo against me. No person has any power. The power of God is in you. One with God is a majority. If God be for you, who can be against you? Spell live backwards. You have evil. That's living life backwards. Then you have your evil. Your evil is the inversion of the life principle, which is God. God moves as unity, seeks to express himself through you as a beauty, love, joy, peace, and divine order. The will of God for you is a great measure of life, love, truth, and beauty, something transcending your fondest dreams. Realize therefore that God is guiding you, that there is right action in your life. Read and meditate on the 91st Psalm and realize that you dwell in the secret place of the Most High, that you abide in the shadow of the Almighty. You'll say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. He covers me with His feathers. Under His wings shall I trust. Just like the hen gathers the chickens together to protect them, so does that Heavenly Father in you surround you with the invisible arm of God's love, rendering you impervious to all harm. You become immunized. You become God intoxicated because you've received the divine antibody. The false idea in your mind is called the adversary, the devil, Satan, and so on. The devils that bedevil us are enmity, strife, hatred. They are devils created by ourselves. They drive some people insane. Because if you put gangsters in charge of your mind, what do you expect? If you fail to believe in the goodness of God and a God of love, the extent to which you believe this can well be your so-called devil, which is the source of your pains, aches, and misfortune. God, or the living Spirit Almighty, or the life principle doesn't judge or punish. It can't. Good and evil are the movements of one's own mind. It is very primitive thinking to believe that God is punishing us or that a devil is tempting us. Our state of consciousness is always made manifest. That's the way you think, believe, and feel whatever you give mental consent to. There is no other cause in the world. Men, women, and children are constantly testifying to our state of mind, to our mental attitudes, to our convictions, to our beliefs. We must remember that the majority of people do not discipline, control, or direct their thinking and mental imagery along godlike channels. Therefore, their failure to think constructively and harmoniously from the standpoint of the Infinite One means that they leave their minds open to the irrational mass mind, which is full of fears, hates, jealousy, and all kinds of negative happenings, and destructive thinking of all kinds. There is a story of a man who had been fired from his job by a cruel and mean boss. He made up his mind to shoot him. Every day, he waited behind a shed near the factory for the boss to pass by. To avoid being caught, he planned to wait for a time when nobody else was near. He had a rifle. On the third morning, when he was stealthily moving into the shed, he stumbled. The rifle went off, and a bullet pierced his heart. He killed himself. People called that an accident. That was no accident. He had murder in his heart, and murder is of the heart. In the 10 Commandments, we are told, "Thou shalt do no murder." It doesn't say, "Thou shalt not kill." That is a commonly held belief because of an early mistranslation of the original Hebrew. When you read the original, it says, "Thou shalt do no murder." Then it tells you that murder is of the heart. When you hate and when you resent, you are full of hostility and resentment. When you are murdering love, peace, harmony, discernment, kindness, and everything that's good, and as you continue to hate and resent, these reach a point of saturation in your subconscious mind and are precipitated as cancer, a bullet, a fatal accident, or something else. But that negative, destructive emotion must have an outlet, and sooner or later reaches a point of saturation and is precipitated on the screen of space. There are no accidents. There's a mind, a mood, a feeling behind a car, a train, bicycle, and also behind a gun. A gun is harmless. It is just a piece of metal. It doesn't do any harm to anybody. It's the mind behind it. You can kill with a stone, kill with poison, with a club, 1,001 ways, but the stone is harmless. The club is harmless. How do you use it? The man had murder in his heart for a long time, and his subconscious responded accordingly. The Bible tells you, "No manifestation cometh unto me, save I, the Father, draw it." And the father of all is your thought and feeling. It fathers everything. The union of your conscious and subconscious mind, your thought and feeling, is the cause of your destiny. That's the cause of every single thing in your world. Whatever your conscious and subconscious minds agree on comes to pass. Any idea emotionalized and felt as true must come to pass. The Father is your state of consciousness, your own creative power which brings all things to pass in your world. No experience comes to you unless there is an affinity in your mind. Two unlike things repel each other. Harmony and discord do not dwell together. Therefore, if you believe the whole armor of God surrounds you, enfolds you, and enwraps you, and harmonizing, healing power of God takes care of you, you can't be on a train that gets wrecked. You can't be on a plane that catches on fire or where someone planted a bomb. If you walk and talk with God and believe that God is guiding you and that the law of harmony is always governing you, then you cannot be on a train that is wrecked because, as we said, discord and harmony do not dwell together. It would be naive to assume that changing one's beliefs from negative to positive would cure all illnesses and disabilities. There are indeed organic and physical causes for most ailments. However, there is a significant portion of health problems that are psychosomatic. It is these that thought change can reverse. I have heard about examples of this in many countries and over many time periods. And I have been instrumental in helping many people by providing them with prayers and meditations to help program their subconscious minds to bring them back to health. Guilt, worry, and fear are the psychosomatic equivalent of germs and viruses. By replacing thoughts of guilt, worry, and fear with thoughts of faith, confidence, and belief, healing is accelerated. Most cases are not all dramatic. They may take the form of insomnia, allergies, headaches, digestive disorders, or depression. In other cases, they may be major maladies such as tumors, paralysis, ulcers, coronary disease, or psychological breakdowns. When afflicted, we tend to blame others. It may be another person. I've been cursed by an enemy. It may be your family history. I come from a weak genetic background. It may be divine retribution. I am being punished by God. As shown earlier in this episode, the real cause lies within you. It is you, and only you, who have control of your thoughts. Others may influence you, but it is you and only you who can make the decision on what will be accepted by your conscious mind and seep down into your subconscious. Let us cease blaming others. Let us look within for the cause of all. Believe in God. Believe in the goodness of God. Believe in the love of God and God's guidance. And you will find that all your ways will be those of pleasantness, and all your paths will be paths of peace, because you are belief expressed. People ask me about children. They say children don't know how to pray, and some children are caught in a fire, drowned at sea on a ship, and things of that nature. Well, children are under the watchful eyes of their parents. And God gave love to all fathers and all mothers, the lion and the lioness too, to all animals. God's love dwells within the father and mother, and it is their mission to cause that child to grow in the image and likeness of the divine presence of God. They are there to realize that the child grows up in the image and the likeness of the dominant mental and emotional climate of the home. The child cannot yet discern and reason, therefore the parents mold the consciousness of the child. A child is subject to the atmosphere of the home. Therefore, you realize that the child is God's child, and God's love fills its soul. It's growing in wisdom, truth, and beauty. God planted His love in fathers and mothers, that they might lead their children through the darkness of the night and through the vicissitudes of life into a realization of God's holy presence, and to teach him of God's love. and that the love of God is flowing through them in transcendent loveliness, and that he careth for them. And children brought up to believe that God is love, and his love enfolds them, surrounds them, and enwraps them, will grow in a magnificent way, and God will be with them all the days of their life. In a nutshell, when your thoughts are completely free from fear and worry, you are thinking from the standpoint of the divine center within you, and God speaks, thinks, and acts through you. Therefore, you speak in words of wisdom, truth, and beauty, words of harmony, health, and peace. You think, therefore, from the God center within. If you do not think constructively, harmoniously, and peacefully, the mass mind will do your thinking for you, and that mass mind believes in tragedy, misfortune, sickness, disease, accidents, hate, murder, and all sorts of things. If you don't do your own thinking, these negative vibrations or thoughts of the mass mind move in upon you, reach a point of saturation, precipitate as accident, misfortune, sickness, and disease. The law of life is the law of belief. If you fear sickness, you attract it. If you think good health, you will be healthy. The law of the Lord is perfect. You can't think one thing and produce another. Trouble of any kind is nature's alarm system that we are thinking wrongly in that direction. Nothing but a change of thought can set us free. There is no worse suffering than a guilty conscience, and certainly none more destructive. Stop condemning yourself and begin to accept that the infinite healing presence saturates your whole being, that God dwells in every cell of your body. It is done unto you as you believe, and a belief is a thought in the mind. No external power or evil entity is trying to lure or harm you. No person has any power. The power of God is in you. One with God is a majority. If God be for you, who can be against you? Guilt, worry, and fear are the psychosomatic equivalent of germs and viruses. By replacing thoughts of guilt, worry, and fear with thoughts of faith, confidence, and belief, healing is accelerated. Join me in a recitation of the following affirmations and psalms, with a small moment of silence at the end. God flows through me as harmony, health, peace, joy, wholeness, and perfection. God walks and talks in me. God's spell is always around me. Wherever I go, God's wisdom governs me in all my ways. Divine right action prevails. All my ways are ways of pleasantness, and all my paths are peace. God's love surrounds me, enfolds me, and enwraps me. God walks and talks in me. I'm surrounded by the sacred circle of God's eternal love, and the whole armor of God surrounds me. Psalm 91. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him, and show him my salvation. Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though a host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this I will be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up on a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I say with my voice, have mercy also upon me, and answer me. When thou saidst, seek ye my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Hide not thy face far from me. Put not thy servant away in anger. Thou hast been my help. Leave me not, neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, when the Lord will take me up, teach me the way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine enemies, for false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. I had fainted unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord is the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, will not we fear, though the earth be removed, And though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, Selah, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her. And that right early. The heathen raged. The kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Come behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. First Psalm. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff, which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. I know that the answer to my problem lies in the God self within me. I now get quiet, still and relaxed. I am at peace. I know God speaks in peace and not in confusion. I am now in tune with the infinite. I know and believe implicitly that infinite intelligence is revealing to me the perfect answer. I think about the solution to my problems. I now live in the mood I would have were my problems solved. I truly live in this abiding faith and trust, which is the mood of the solution. This is the Spirit of God moving within me. The Spirit is omnipotent. It is manifesting itself. My whole being rejoices in the solution. I am glad. I live in this feeling and give thanks. I know that God has the answer. With God, all things are possible. God is the living Spirit, almighty within me. He is the source of all wisdom and illumination. The indicator of the presence of God within me is a sense of peace and poise. I now cease all sense of strain and struggle. I trust the God power implicitly. I know that all the wisdom and power I need to live a glorious and successful life are within me. I relax my entire body. My faith is in His wisdom. I go free. I claim and feel the peace of God flooding my mind, heart, and whole being. I know the quiet mind gets its problems solved. I now turn the request over to the God presence, knowing it has an answer. I release the pattern in me that created this. I am at peace. I am worthwhile. I trust the process of life. I am safe. I allow my thoughts to be free. The past is over. I am at peace. I am a divine expression of life. I love and accept myself where I am right now. I now discover how wonderful I am. I choose to love and enjoy myself. I lovingly take care of my body, my mind, and my emotions. Thank you, Father. Now let us go into the silence. And I really loved that particular lecture by Joseph Murphy. It had some great points. I found it very powerful, and it was perfect for this time that I'm reading it now. Key points just to mention as we review this chapter. He mentions the importance of how you think. One of the great things that Joseph Murphy teaches is how to think. And focusing on wisdom, truth, and beauty, harmony, and health. Going within and finding your divine center. When you eliminate fear and worry and guilt from your thinking, you come to that divine center. Something that's mentioned in here is the mass mind. And it's a very simple idea. The idea is if you're not creating your reality, the mass mind will create your reality. This is discussed in reality transurfing, where the mass mind is the pendulum. A pendulum wants you to do a certain thing or thinks a certain thing, and it creates reality. You see it with the media. You see it on social media. You see it with politics. The mass mind. Another important concept that's very, very clearly described in here that's very important. No matter how much you hate somebody or are angry with somebody or want something terrible to happen to somebody, and that happens all the time. You see something terrible on TV, and your anger about what that person did is so terrible that you want something bad to happen to him. He needs the death penalty. Something bad needs to happen to them. That means that you're saying it, that you are okay for that happening to yourself. When you look at a politician and you say how angry you are at that politician, that you hope that they die, that they get sick, and you think terrible thoughts about them. Remember, they are you. So you are thinking these thoughts about yourself. So it's easy when you turn on the TV, you'll see people that you hate. You'll see people to be angered about. Remember, everybody that you see is yourself. And his discussion of the devil is brought back here. The idea that the devil is just a misapplication of the law. It's misthinking. And that the law of life is the law of belief. And so if you fear sickness, you will attract it. And if you fear any of these things, you magnetize and attract them. His discussion of guilt is so important. I have suffered from massive guilt for things I have done in my life, to the point that I was incapable of doing anything. And when I was forgiven, then I was able to forgive myself, because for some of the stuff I did, I had somebody else forgive me, and when they did, it lifted a burden off me. And I realized I had been limiting, and I did not believe that I deserved to have success or could do the things I wanted to do because I didn't deserve it. We all have things that we can feel guilty about. Some people can feel guilty about things that neither you or I would feel guilty about. It could be that they cheated on a game of Monopoly when they're in 10th grade. But some people, for that's all that is enough. So we need to let go of the past, and we need to forgive ourselves. That is how we fix this. So let go of your guilt. Let go of your worry and fear. Those are the greatest viruses that are spreading right now. Hate, fear, anger, worry, and guilt are spreading the land. And it can be spread asymptomatically. And even if you're wearing a mask or have gloves on, you can still get it. It is airborne. It is brain-borne. So protect yourself. And there is only one vaccine, and that is right thinking. Go within and think the right thoughts. Focus on the right things. Now, I know that we all have bad things happen, and I'm not making light of that in any way. And like he said, sometimes bad things happen no matter what. And why did it happen to you? But there is a certain percentage of times when bad things happen because of something that you were thinking. When you, even if you're not thinking it, if you release your thoughts and say, I'm not going to even worry about the future, then the mass mind will think for you. The mass mind has had race riots in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. So it's part of the mass mind. We start having these things, and they're understandable. The mass mind will recreate over and over events. If you want to get sucked into that, then let the mass mind do your thinking for you. So it's important for you to think your own thoughts and not be thinking by the mass mind, which is so easy. It happens so often. I hope that those wonderful psalms and prayers at the end of this chapter will help you to mark your subconscious mind so that you can avoid misfortune and you can avoid accidents. Another really interesting discussion in reality transurfing is when you get on a train, if you have a certain feeling in your heart, then you know in some other reality that you may have had a train accident. I love that concept. Well, it's the same thing. You're connecting to that God self within you. You are aware of all the possible realities, and you are told you are not going to have major accidents or things happen to you. You can avoid these things. When you tune into your heart has access to all the space of variations in the quantum field. It knows all the possible things that can happen to you, and you can avoid them by listening to your heart. So many people left the buildings during 9/11. Why? Because something told them. So many people have so many stories where they have not gone on a plane because they knew it was going to crash, or they didn't get on a train. In fact, there was a scientific study that showed that train crashes actually show a statistically lower number of people getting on the train. Maybe they forget to go or something happens. That's because those people are tuned into their God mind. Not saying the others aren't, but by tuning into it, you can become aware of the flow of the space of variations in the quantum field, and have an awareness, a lingering awareness that lights the way just ahead of you enough so that you can avoid misfortune. And you can't do that. You can't tune into your heart when you're tuning into fear. That distorts your perceptions of this field. So it's important, even if it feels like you're faking it, to find joy and happiness and wonder, to focus on those positive and peaceful things. And if you can't, then give yourself an affirmation or prayer that you can repeat. That seems to be the easiest way, because you're going to have fearful thoughts, but mark them and consciously try to change them by using the power of your word to do it. I hope that this helps you to understand the answer to the question, why did this happen to me? Please keep a lookout for all future episodes. We got so many cool episodes on the way. Can't wait for you to hear them. Please leave a review on my book, The Reality Revolution, The Mind-Blowing Movement to Hack Your Reality, or leave a review on Audible or Amazon, and you will be entered into a drawing for 1 free hour of coaching. Please put in the comments about what you think about this unique lecture and the ideas of guilt and misfortune. How do misfortunes happen, and can we avoid them? What is your opinion? I am wishing the greatest love and happiness and joy for you right now, for whoever hears this, from now until the end of time. And I can only tell you that I love you and welcome to the Reality Revolution.